Okay, let's see if this one's working. Having a bit of trouble tonight, guys. Anything happening? Right. That's gone live now. Surely. Is this working right now? Let's see whether or not. Okay, can anybody see me? Can anybody hear me? Oh, Sally will fly. Hello. Hello, Sally will fly. Okay, we've got somebody. Let's just do this. I've had a lot of trouble with this tonight, guys. Right. Oh my God. I really don't know what's going on tonight, but that's just taken me 20 minutes to be able to put that together. I've no idea. Now I'm sounding like an idiot now. It was all scheduled for 8 p.m. and once again, everything seems to be a bit of a palaver. But isn't that life in whatever way that we see it? It's always a palaver. Well, tonight I want to speak about the gift of the mind, the power of the mind, and how incredible the mind is. A few people have spoken to me and spoke about the mind. I mean, it's one of the hardest things to try and understand, isn't it? And I think for me, at that particular time, was, as I've said, in the early days, it's just the human mind. It just thinks like a human. And then in that darkness, that mind didn't like me anymore. And so therefore, in my process, I had to seriously try to understand and control what was actually going on in my mind. As we've heard many spiritual teachers speak about, it's all in the mind. Balance in the mind, power in the mind, understanding the mind. And the difference being for me is, in my human mind, it just looked at everything in the human way. But in the middle part of the process, I had a very conflicting mind. So my mind was all over the place trying to find out answers. And if you're in that place, that's the mind that has a lot of questions, but it doesn't have a mind that's got the answers. Because what we're here to do is to be able to completely get in control of oneself. So being-me-ism, M, can be for the mind, or it's mastering. So be-me is mastering the mind. I used to look at my mind and sort of think, well, why can I not change the vocabulary? Why can I not change the program? Why is my mind saying and going over the same things that it's always been going over? And that is to be happy, get out of depression, earn some money, do well, enjoy life, survive, get on, peacefully, honestly, as good as I can. That's what you want the mind to be. But when we've got the mind in the dark night of the soul, of course, that is a very treacherous journey. That mind is awful. It's evil to the point. And what it's doing is it's dragging everything up. What I say is in your filing cabinet. So imagine as the human side of you is being emptied, it's going to fight back, isn't it? It's going to struggle. It's going to call you an idiot. What are you doing spiritual for? What are you talking about healing for? What do you mean you're talking about love? And so therefore, the mind stops you. And the reason why it does that is because it's under threat. I know, sounds mad, doesn't it? But it is under threat. And the reason why it's under threat is because your mind has been your best friend for has it been your best friend? Your mind has been the only voice that you've been listening to all of your life. And then there's another mind. There's a mind that seems to want to speak to you, and you don't even know where that's coming from. It's not to say that it sounds different, but sometimes you'll be questioning, I don't even know why I'm thinking that. I don't even know why I want to do that. I don't even know why I want to go over there. So I realised that when these Buddhas, spiritual people, they talk about understanding the mind, transcending the mind, balancing the mind, emptying the mind, it's a lot to do with the mind, isn't it, really? As I've always said, this journey is about mind how you go. Because it's only through the mind that's going to allow you to go. So therefore, when you are awakening into the true self, oh yeah, your old self will do everything in its power to call you an idiot and try to stop you from enhancing or evolving or becoming self-aware. It's a strange battle. That's part of the dark night of the soul. That's why writing is very, very important. So let's say hello to a few people that we've got here. Hi, Kim. Hi, Experimental Elemental. Okay, live and clear from Sydney, Australia. So hi to Sydney in Australia, not to Sydney. CG, whoever CG is, welcome to the show. Well, okay, this was a bit of a quick moment. For some reason I might be having trouble with the internet because it looks a little bit poor. But I'm going to talk for a little while, speak for about an hour. But your questions really do count, because your questions will get me into the conversation of understanding what is it my subscribers are looking for or looking to understand. And I want to be able to give the best perception or the best answers of what it is that you're going through. Hopefully it's something similar to what I went through, because Beamism is all about transformation. Can we transform from a human being into a different being? Well, now I can say yes, because we have the identity of the Beamy being. And the Beamy being is definitely not the human being. And so therefore, the Beamy only has the body, the mind, and the experience. So the mind is always going to be working on what your experience is. Spoke to a lot of people. They want to transcend the mind. They want to discover who they are. They want to understand their true self. Now, that's a big question, to understand the true self. Understanding my true self now, I can honestly say, okay, all of this Beamism was laying dormant within me. And so therefore, the breakaway from the human being allowed Beamism to rise to the surface. And once that mind kicked in, I had a mind that was now beginning to teach me things that I never knew existed. And that's where a lot of Beamism come from. It's almost like the divine mind is now taken over. But I had to go through a series of steps to really punch through. Why was my mind sabotaging me? Why was my mind letting me down? Why is the mind confused? Why is it angry? Why are you still worrying? Why do you talk to yourself in the way that you speak with yourself? It's the same, isn't it? And so therefore, today, it's understanding your own authentic self. A lot of people say to me, I want to find my true self. I want to find my authentic self. Well, firstly, you already are that true authentic self. That's your inner workings. That's your intelligence. It is clothed by a cloak of the human experiences. Everything that you've gained, the name, the religion, anything about yourself, that's all the human. But if you're talking to me and you're watching this channel, then you're trying to understand, one, what is it that I'm saying? And as you know, I've spoken a lot about the depression, the dark night of the soul, but it was trying to sustain a level of understanding within my mind. And so therefore, my mind started to evolve. So don't paint yourself a picture of what you think your mind is all about. Now, we've heard many people, and you're probably going to hear me turn around and say, it's all about observing the thoughts, which is something that we don't always do in our human days. We just are the thoughts. And I used to look at how much energy I was wasting within my mind, even walking around the supermarket. I'm looking at everything on the supermarket, and the mind is having a good old chat. Well, do you fancy that for dinner then? And when you look at it and you stop and you think, who's asking me what is it that I want for dinner? I find that really strange. And a lot of the times, I can walk around the supermarket and there is just nothing on the shelves for me. There's just nothing there. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. It doesn't kind of make sense. And so therefore, I realized that we waste a lot of energy when the mind is controlling you. And if the mind is going on and over, that's where energy goes. And that's where you say to yourself, I'm doing my own head in, and it's mentally driving me mad. So I'm supposing that's what you would call mental illness or mental health, where you've overstepped that mind. You know, I see a lot of people, they can be walking down the streets really talking to themselves or having an argument with themselves. And I think to myself, I thought I was going to be like that, and it's still early days. I could be one of them people that's walking down the street communicating with myself so that everybody can hear. And I've often wondered, but when I look at that, to me that's that spiritual or spirit connection that they really do believe or are having a conversation. Now, I know that can happen. I know that can be so real about communicating with somebody. But to me, that's always been about the rebirthing healer or somebody that's actually a medium. Now, we talk about it on past lives. You know, we talk about past lives and we've got all these memories. I don't swim with the past life anymore. I used to. I thought it was kind of good. And then I looked at it and I thought, well, that's kind of quite cruel. But through my understanding of understanding my story, I then started to understand that my mind was still being influenced by spirit, but it was also being influenced by my ancestral lineage. And so therefore, in the soul's lineage, in the soul's language, in the soul's mind, they can get you to do things that you think is a great idea, and you go there, and then you wonder why you're there. And then I started to piece it all together and realised it wasn't me that was actually going there. It was this ancestral lineage that was influencing me to go there. But it made me go there for a real reason. It's like when I discovered I was doing a seminar and I had to get from A to B, let's call it that way. And as I was getting from A to B, I came across East and West Ilesley, and I thought, oh, that's really strange. What? I didn't know, what's this about? It can't be nothing to do with my family. Well, of course it was. It became the biggest thing in my family. So I checked it out, and I went there, and there was a church there with the family name in it, and all the land was owned by my family 500, 600 years ago. So it was interesting to see that just because of a seminar, I got to discover where my family came from, and that began the journey of understanding the preacher energy, because the church is already there. And I sometimes do have this idea that I may go to that church, see if I can hire it out to do a seminar, and that would be really interesting, because I would be literally standing on the footsteps of my forefathers, literally. So it's all interesting. So the mind is a powerful thing. It's a powerful trickster. It can let you down, it can disrespect you, it can hate you. But on the beamy side of it all, it's also about enlightenment, and it's about mindfulness, and it's about consciousness, and it's about awareness, and you can have real loving thoughts, real loving understandings of what does it mean to be a human being. It literally expands. Your vocabulary expands. Your creativity will expand because you've not put everything into a pigeonhole or a box that's called human being. Because we don't want to have a voice that's saying, you can't do that. What are you doing that for? You're an idiot. I had all of that. So let's say hello to a few people. Hi Maureen. Liza. Queen of Hearts, let's dance together. Hello. Rachel, Stats, Queen of Hearts, Queen of Hearts, Queen of Hearts, let's dance. Can you tell us about the twin flame? Again, to me, twin flame, I don't know the truth behind the twin flame, but I do know the connection of connecting with people. And so therefore, what is a twin flame? I don't really know. It's something that is going out there. But if there was such a thing as a twin flame for me, that's when that moment when you truly do fall in love with somebody, and it is just an incredible feeling. Now, is that my twin flame? I'm not sure. But how I see it is that everyone can be a flame of yours, because I think it's all just to do with the soul's journey. And I think each time we meet somebody, you have to represent them as a soulmate, because they are on your journey. If we look at them just as human beings, and we just look at them as just a relationship or just somebody you've connected with, it doesn't mean anything. But as soon as you start to understand the soul's journey and you feel something, you feel a connection. So you're meant to speak to that people, or you're meant to have an affair with that person, or a relationship with that person. Whatever it is, there will be a pull, there will be a drive, but it's not to say that's going to be something that lasts forever. Because for me, without using the word of twin flame, I would say it's meeting your match in the way that somebody has got a message to deliver to you, or they're going to put you through a hell of a lot of shit until you understand who you are, and what you're doing. So if we call it twin flames, they can put you onto a pathway. So let's say I could be a twin flame for a lot of people, because a lot of people may connect in with me and they sort of say, oh my God, you know this, you do this, you're about this, and I feel this. And so therefore they can feel a really big connection. But if you look at everything and understand that I believe really the true essence of the twin flame is something that resides within me, because it's like almost like getting the human side of you, getting the spiritual side of you, the soulful side of you, which is what the light is. That, to me, is the flame. So when these two come together, that's when we can ignite the flame. It's almost like when I talk about ember key, ember. It's like a fire, isn't it? And key, it's like a fiery key. So for me, I don't try to get caught up on too many labels of what we believe it is. I think only you can tell if you're connected to, a twin flame, or somebody that's on your wavelength maybe. But again, as I said, I think a twin flame, or somebody that you can really connect with, can really put you through your paces. I don't know if it's always about love and light, but I think it is about understanding messages that get you to awaken more. So again, it's about you understanding that, but try not to get too caught in the labels, because if not, you'll always be looking for a twin flame, and you'll be how will you say it? What will you believe is a twin flame for you? How do you think it would make you feel? Maybe you are the flame that could ignite another flame. To me, that's enlightenment, when we light up, because there is a way to be able to do that, to raise ourselves up from the depths of darkness or loneliness or despair. But truly understanding a relationship comes from within. And I've realised now that everyone, literally, that I've met is definitely a soulmate, not just a relationship. And I wished I knew this in the beginning, because the story would have become so much easier. Okay, hypnicity. Mirror work may be helpful. Mirror work, I don't know where we're getting that answer from. Hypnicity, this election has challenged my resolve to remain neutral. You see, I want everyone to trust the process for the collective win. Again, that's not a lot I know about, because we don't have presidents. So, what is your mind saying? How does your mind speak with you? What do you say to it? What does it say to you? What's the argument that you could be having? Because one of the things that I discovered was how to have an intelligent conversation with a mind that has been controlling you for the last 40 years. Because my transformation was happening when I was 40 years. So you can imagine that programming of who I was as Trevor Ilesley is set in its programming. The mind had been set. And if I look at anyone that's older, their mind has also been set. So there is a Be Me statement in the Mind How You Go process, and it's called Become Mindfully Empty. And so therefore, this was something that took me a hell of a long time to be able to keep saying to myself, become mindfully empty. Because it's a command. And it took practice. So every time I used to catch my thoughts going over the same thing, I used to say to myself, become mindfully empty. Become mindfully empty. Become mindfully empty. Become mindfully empty. And that's all I used to keep doing. And then I got to the point where I didn't have to say become mindfully empty, because I could just empty it. Because I'm not filling the mind up with just useless words. And so therefore, again, it's very, very important to write down what your mind is speaking about. Because you want to get the mind out the way, because you want to be connecting in with your soul. You want to be connecting into your own inner teacher. And that works on a true feeling. And I believe that is the feeling that everyone's trying to feel or connect to, that they know exists within inside of them all. But it's just the mind in the way that we do things. I did a seminar, and I asked the audience what it is that they wanted, and I was really surprised. They all wanted a peaceful mind. So could that be the way for you? Is it about the peaceful mind? If I talk about the peaceful mind, or I see what people do with a peaceful mind, they seem to be sitting up on a mountain somewhere, cross-legged, covered in ash, wearing strange clothing, and needing a wash. That's what it looks like to me. They've sat there for so long. Of course it's peaceful. There's nobody in it. But I think the power that we're really looking for, I think, is the creative mind. To do something creative, with yourself, to push out the boundaries of what you've been used to. That is the difference that I discovered. It was pushing the perception of how you think about yourself, and what changes is the way that you think about life. And that for me was the big difference, because in the human story, I didn't really care about life. It was just life. You don't really care too much about people because you don't know people. So it's just everyone for themselves, Everyone just gets on and does what they do, and you just get on. It's as simple as that. Some people you get on with, some people you don't. Clash of minds, isn't it? Somebody says something because they spoke their mind, and then you don't like what they said to you. It's a big thing in the internet world at this moment. Somebody says something that they don't like, and it gets caught in the mind. Or religion is all about the mind, because you have a belief system of something that you believe in. So when you're praying, you have a praying mind. So therefore, you're praying to your God, looking for an answer. So that's another mind. But what if you had the mind that you prayed to yourself and received your own answers? And that's the controlling mind. If you can control the level of your voice, that changes the frequency and the vibration of your body. And I learnt this when I went deaf on TV. It was 1 year I went deaf, and all of a sudden, for the very first moment, I could hear my voice. And if you was having a screaming match and you put your hands to your ears, just scream to yourself, shout to yourself, have an argument, put your hands over your ears, feel the resonance of how it rattles through your own body. You don't realise until the hearing has been stopped. And I think that's why people that are hard of hearing, they can feel what's going on within their bodies. And at that moment in time, I realised that my voice was shouting. Very interesting. But as soon as I went deaf, I quietened the voice down and listened to the way that the vibration was resonating through my body. So if you use words of, I hate myself, that's a resonance that's shooting all the way through your body, from your mind, all the way through your torso, because you've just told yourself that you hate yourself. And if you really said it with a lot of passion and a lot of anger, that's like a time bomb going off. And that made me realise that words can heal you and words can kill you. So your mind can teach you how to heal, or your mind will teach you how to kill. It's as simple as that. Healing, killing. Kill the mind, kill the self, or heal the self. This is part of the transformation, where we feel that we really have to get through it, and to truly understand. When you ask yourself and say, who are you talking to? How many of you talk to yourself in the mirror? I know I have, loads of times, especially when you're going through a bad time. You look at yourself, you look miserable, you're upset, you're angry, your face is wrong, it's all changed. And then when you're in love, you look at yourself in the mirror, all is good, you look beautiful, looks wonderful, great. 10 years have disappeared off your life. So the power of the mind is the most amazing thing. Its intelligence is beyond anything I've ever met. Through understanding my new mind, that was the healer. So now I became the healer of the mind. Healing the mind heals the body. Heal the body changes your energy. So let's have a little look of what we got here. Liz up, thanks. Mirror way help. Lynette Stone, hello love, you are truly amazing, thank you. Thanks Lynette. Lynette Stone, lots of love. Trevor, can you explain the reason for somatic symptoms during the dark night of the soul? There's loads of symptoms in the dark night of the soul. My God, you will feel you're not in control. That's what it seems like. And it seems like that your mind has taken over, so you're not semistically in control of that. It's happening by itself. Your feelings can change. They go all over the place. And in the dark night of the soul, it's like you sense something. There's a denser energy. It's a lower vibrating energy. And as I've said before, it felt like for me something was stepping in and stepping out and stepping back in. And I used to feel it. And when the energy used to come in, it used to scare me because I used to think, what's coming out my mouth? You know, sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't good. So when we look at things that happen and you don't know why they're happening, that's the big why question. That's the question that I went out to discover was, what is that? Why does it do that? And why am I doing that? And sometimes when things come upon you so quick, you might be getting ready, you might want to be going out, you go to walk to the front door, and then all of a sudden there's a level of fear. And I found myself with my hand on the door, just staring into space and thinking, why don't I want to go out? I felt this incredible insecurity. That's the word. All of a sudden I felt insecure. So is there an insecurity in what was happening with you? Because even with spirits that come around you, you can change instantly. I used to say to myself, when somebody came in close and then I felt a certain way, I used to know that it wasn't me that was wanting to feel like that, but I was picking up that something was around me that did feel like that. So again, that's a different level of mediumship and channeling. That's how we work on that level. Okay, the Dark Night of the Soul. Ruth Jones. Hi, Ruth Jones. Okay, so what? Any more questions? Let us know what you want to talk about, because this is what I want to do, of trying to understand, because it's all about bringing in the new. I am the new. And is there another way in life? Well, I discovered that there is another way in life. And I also discovered that I believe that there is another one of you as there is another one of me. One is that human side and one is that soulful side, which to me is the real side. And I call the soulful side, I call the human side the problem, and I call the soulful side, the be me, the solution. S-O-U-L-lution. So if I've got a problem with my human side when I was going through this story, I couldn't work it out in a human way. But as I later found out, once I was communicating with that soul and I was allowing that soul to come through, it kind of wasn't a problem. It was part of the process that I was having to go through to get to where I was going. The only process was I didn't know where I was going. Something knew where it was going, but I didn't know where I was going. So in the moments of the dark night of the soul, there can be some strange happenings. There can be some weird happenings. You can see things, hear things, feel things. You may see a lot of spirit like I did, and I thought it can be quite scary to the point because none of us want to be watched, do we? And so therefore, you definitely don't want to feel like God's watching you. You definitely don't want to feel like your family's watching you. So, but there is this essence. I found that there was this presence that was kind of watching over me, but also guiding me at the same time. Some people might call it a guardian angel. I don't go with the guardian angel, but I do go with the spirit of ancestral lineage. I believe that's more connected to me than anything, because the spiritual lineage, the ancestral lineage, is very important. And a lot of people can go through things, or their mind can be switchy all over the place, because I now realise that's a different part of my soul that was connecting in. And so therefore, let's say for instance, I'm not a very good writer, I don't like writing, I don't like it at all. But in the DNA, in my soul's lineage, the ancestors that built me, there is a writer. And there was somebody in there that wanted to write about scriptures, they wanted to write about the kingdom of God, they wanted to write about the kingdom of heaven. So all of it can seem very, very weird and very strange. And it will do that, because transformation is like that. And as I said, it's about mastering the mind. Masters the mind, masters the body, changes the energy. Being becomes a master of. So you become a master of yourself. And it's simple, because I bring everything in a way that I try to make it sound simple. Whereas a lot of spiritual teachers, they try to make everything very difficult to understand. So again, always write down your thoughts of the human, click into your higher self, and give yourself the answer, because it's you that is looking for the answer. So again, the mind is capable of doing that. As I said, once I emptied out the human mind, the divine mind, the God mind, you could say, the enlightened mind, the balanced mind, the excited mind, the teacher mind, all of that came into play. And so therefore it became evolution. So it became evolution of the mind, which meant how I used to think is not how I now think. That is two different people. That is two different worlds. And it's also two different perceptions on how we see things. I know sometimes this may seem very difficult to understand, but I know the difference between being the human, and I now know the difference about being me. And the difference is, you can quite simply say it's not emotional, or it thinks in a completely different way. I can communicate with myself as if I'm speaking to, let's say, an angel for the moment, just as the opposite end of the stick, really. You're talking to something or somebody that is and was more intelligent than I was. And so therefore, I was fed that intelligence until that intelligence was installed into me. And so therefore, I try to speak more with intelligence. And I don't mean speaking intelligence because I know fancy words. I don't use fancy words. I keep everything simple. Right, okay. Maureen, hi Maureen. Hi Lynn. Sarah, how do you not get caught up in others' fictional character of you? It's like I have to play their part of me when I'm near them. Like I'm pulled into their reaction they want of me. It's weird. Yeah, it's Sarah, I'm going to read that again. How do you, meaning me I suppose, not get caught up in others' fictional character of you? Yes. It's like I have to play their part of me when I'm near them. Yes. Like I'm pulled into their reaction they want of me. It's weird. Yeah, that's a great question, because what you realise is that we are chameleons. And so therefore, as an hairdresser, of course, I was dealing with a lot of people, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, all different personalities. And everyone expected me to be in a certain way, and I expected them to be in a certain way. So I had to play all different characters during the course of the day that would work with my client to make them feel comfortable with what's going on. As I've said before, it was like the 10 o'clock client could have been very happy, full of fun. It's her birthday. Daddy's just bought her a Porsche. And then the 11 o'clock client can be, I've got to go to the funeral because my dad's being buried today. So again, I had to play all these different parts. And then it got to the point where you play so many parts. And I think this is where actors can be a bit strange in their normal life. If you look at, say, like Johnny Depp, incredible actor. He's played incredible scenes in incredible movies, and he's brilliant. But when you get Johnny Depp on his own, he merely talks like this and says word, a little thing. You think, wow, where's your personality? Where's the communication? So it seemed like to me he can play the parts, but what is his part? And I think actors have a lot of trouble. Again, it's about being a chameleon. And what is an actor really? A bloody good liar. That's all they're doing. They're lying. So when you look at all the characters that they want you to be, I remember I used to go around people's houses and go, oh, Trev's turned up. Trev, come over here. Tell him about that funny moment. Or tell him about that funny joke that you were so funny when you told me. And you get put on the spot and you think, it's not the same about being funny. So people were expecting me to be funny all the time. Trevor lighten up the day. When Trev turns up, he said it'll all be fireworks, you know. But I realised that I was playing so many different characters to different people. You're a different character to your mum, so you end up playing what you think your mum wants you to be like, your girlfriends, your boyfriends, your relationships, your parents, your children. We're all playing different characters. You go to work, you're playing different characters. And so therefore, for me, when I started to transform, I got fed up being a chameleon. I got fed up with being this person, and this person, that I felt like I was wearing many coats. And I felt like I was always there to cheer their day up, but no one was there to cheer my day up. If I was always happy, people was happy. But if I was not happy, people would think I've got the hump. And I used to think, oh God, I can't win here. I've either got to stay full and happy. Anyway, one of my mates said it to me. He said, Trev, when you transformed, I lost a mate. And I totally knew what he meant by that. He didn't lose a mate because I was still his mate. But he'd lost the personality that he'd known for 30 years. He couldn't put the two and two together. It was almost as if he said, I'm speaking to an entirely different person and I'm waiting for the Trevor to come back. See, that was a big thing. My children even said it. So look at how many characters you are playing and ask yourself which one of them is real. So when I got to the point where I decided which character or which personality of me was real, then I just played that for everyone. And the interesting twist in that story is that when I turned into more of a spiritual being, then I was treating everyone with that spiritual aspect of myself, which meant I spoke to them differently, I saw them differently, I understood them differently. But what they wasn't going to do is to understand me. And that's the big problem, even in the dark night of the soul. You know, people can look at you that you were so funny and you were so great and so full of inspiration, but as soon as you go through that dark night of the soul, they turn their back on you because they don't know how to deal with you. And that's a really, really tough one. But you're right there. Yes, you're saying it is weird. And of course it is weird. But in the story, weird becomes the norm. So it's all weird in the beginning. But once you get used to the weird, it becomes the norm. And so therefore, the norm then sees everything in more of a miraculous way rather than a weird way. You start to get to know it. But check out your own energies of, you can be the happiest party goer, but you go home and you're miserable. So what one are you? Are you that party goer, or you the one that's sitting at home destroying themselves? And I know what that feels like. So again, we're playing many, many characters. It's about being me, it's about being that one character. And I used to think it was about find your level, not too high, not too low, but you just find that level in between. That, I think, is the be me. Because I'm not acting anymore. I don't want to act. I'm not here to make anybody laugh. I'm not here to be the joker of the class anymore. So life became a little bit serious. And it worked for me. I lost a few mates, quite a lot of people actually, because they lost a hairdresser. And so therefore they lost Trev. But what they didn't want to understand was the spiritual Trev, because no, they don't want to go spiritual. It's not for them. They're not ready for that. Adam Cook, same here, Trevor. 99 Sanchez, I just joined. I'm going to throw a personal question, maybe not related to anything talk. So when I was 19, I had a huge Kundalini awakening, Nirvana, etc. Then the hurricane. Okay, so you had a moment of union where you would have connected with what you would say is God, right? Call it Kundalini, call it Nirvana. Everyone's got all these fancy names for it. But for me, when I felt like that, they wasn't the words that I was using. So in the story, in the journey, there will be moments when you are so in tune and so connected. You have this power that runs through you that is unstoppable. And it's an incredible feeling of, oh, everything's all right. Everything's great. Everything's perfect. Everything's blissful. There is this escapism. It seems like you've escaped from all the dramas and the commotion and the thoughts and the feelings, and it's almost like your spirit has left the body, which is how I believe it is. When the spirit is leaving that body, which is a meat suit, which is heavy, you have this lightness, you have this burst of, wow, floating in a way. And I had some great moments of that, but then they didn't last and they didn't live long. And then I spent a lot of time trying to get them moments back of what you would say is nirvana or the Kundalini, where everything is just like an empty vessel. It's just, energy is just pouring through you and out of you. But I looked upon it as being something that I can't chase, but it was something that was brilliant to have, because there was a moment when I'd completely connected to everything and I felt one with everything. And it was such a joyous moment. I never felt joy like it before. And it was a beautiful thing. And I cried a lot, but not tears of sorrow and pain. They were just tears of sheer beauty. And I fell in love with life, but I can't sustain that really, because I can't just keep walking around life feeling like I'm in love and feeling the beauty of it. It's an incredible thing. So again, always gauge yourself from your A point to your B point, whatever you want to call it. You're working on yourself. Transformation is all about yourself. If you come from a bad time here, and then all of a sudden you've got this kind of energy, which is basically the opposite to the bad times, or the bad energy, or the bad frequency, or the bad vibration, the way that we grind within the human programming, escaping that is like, my God, you've just been let free. You're out of prison. There's no emotions. There's no discomfort in the body whatsoever. Now, as I said, I didn't call mine nirvana, but I would say that was a connection when I truly connected into my true be me self, and that be me self had mastered itself. So that was what I would say, my enlightening moment amongst many that I had before. So, but to stay in that, you'd have to be in the proper environment, I would say. So you'd have to, I don't know, be in an ashram or far away from people, or maybe teaching people, or building a place where you can sustain that energy. It can be done. It's mainly the people, it's mainly the gurus, isn't it? It mainly comes around the Eastern beings that have been doing it for a long time. It's called nirvana because they just transcend everything. It's almost like they've left the body. Hopefully that's helped. But always find your own. Sarah, thank you so much. I understand what you mean. I see I just need to rest in the part that is authentic. Yes, you do. Because don't forget, everyone is authentic. This is the big problem of the world. We've been all classed under the same titles, really. You know, a separation is just between the sexes or between the religions, which is ridiculous. But when we start to truly be aware of what life is, and you start to understand the process of what humans are like, then you start to understand the process of what you are like whilst you're playing the game of life. And in the dark night of the soul, there is that moment for me when it went, I can't be playing this shit anymore. I can't. I do not want to play the game. And so therefore, I saw life as a pinball wizard, and the little metal ball with a pullback spring, and you hit all the flippers, and then you try to score points, and then you lose the ball. It comes straight down, doesn't it? It's that moment, none of the flippers work. Now you're in the darkness. And I think that's how we've been shown how to play life. Just flip the ball, just see what happens, score your points. Some you win, some you lose. I took the metal ball out of that machine and kept it in my pocket and said, I'm not playing that game. So it was a great big reminder, and that's true, the metal ball sitting over there on the shelf at the moment. But that's what I did. The metal ball was a reminder that said, my life isn't a pinball machine of just seeing how many points I can get. And then that, when it goes in that channel, I felt like that was the dark night of the soul. It was so straight and so direct. It finished playing the game and then just dropped into that darkness. Pinball Wizard. Adam Cook is saying hello. Hello, Adam. Thank you very much, Izzy. Right, basically I was a person all my life. Then I was a nobody, and then went to being forced by nature to be again somebody, but with many traumas after this huge experience. Yes, that's right. Basically, I was a person all my life. Yes, that's what we are. Then I was a nobody. And then went to being forced by nature. That's true, that's correct. To be again as somebody, but with many traumas after this huge experience. They're traumas if you say they're traumas, right? Because you're using a word that is telling you what that experience means. Now listen, I know what you're talking about. I can take words like that and put them on the stages of my journey, where I can say, going through the dark night of soul, I was completely traumatized, beyond recognition traumatized, so much fear. But then, if I use that word of being traumatized, then I'm traumatized. But if I take that word away and look upon them as great life lessons that the soul was going to endure anyway, then I can understand that them traumas are the toolbox for the healer. Because if it wasn't for my traumas, then I wouldn't have the education or the wisdom to understand, well, what on earth was that trauma all about? You know, there was a program, I don't know if you've seen it, it's on Netflix, and it's called My Abusing Wife or something like that. It was about a guy who had to put secret cameras in his house because his wife was absolutely beating him, destroying him to all the points, and it was all kind of about abuse. And so therefore he took such a lot of abuse. It wasn't until the police come round, it was the police that started to be more concerned than how concerned he was, because he was used to the abuse. But to the police officers, it was like, this ain't normal. And so therefore, it's really funny in the way he wasn't actually feeling like it was an abuse. But in the story of it all, it's abuse. And of course, in the program, his wife actually went away for 4 years because of the mental aggression and the anger of the abuse she was giving him, just through pure hatred. So that's all traumatic. Childhoods are traumatic. Human being can become very traumatic over a lot of things. But when I started to understand that everything could possibly be initiation, so if you look at things that are very traumatic on a soul level, I started to understand that as an intuition and a a way of being able to find a different meaning and a purpose to why that happened. It's like I could say, I went through a lot of depression, yeah, but why? I went through the dark night of the soul and lost myself, and I would say, yeah, but why? Why? So there's always a why. So always look into the why, because the soul, honestly, it loves this stuff because it came here to endure all of that stuff. But then your form of transformation, and hopefully beamism will be a help for that, because you step out of that trauma and you look at it and you think to yourself, okay, that was part of my experience, but it doesn't have to determine who I am today, because traumas can come in different ways that I used to think that they was happening to stop you from being the light. And so therefore I used to think darkness and trauma, people's anger, people's attitudes, people's personalities, people putting you down. I think that's all the trick of the darkness to try and stop you from growing into the true self. So just come away from that trauma and find a different word, or if no word. But the truth of it is, they are your personal experiences. And to have an authentic journey, you have to understand what happens in the good, and you have to understand what happens in the bad. And once you know how to read that story, it gets to the point where, for me, there wasn't no bad. This was all meant to happen. There's nothing I could have done or changed or anything about it. It's like your soul walks you straight into it. But that is what makes a good teacher, I feel. It's understanding the power of the trauma, but then it's down to us if we decide to keep hold of it and let it destroy us even further. No, but there's magic in it. There is magic in that journey. Right, okay, Adam Cook. Right, let's leave that for the mat. Let's have a hypnicity. Trevor, your words are very comforting. Andrew Cook, go on, brother. Right, let's get back. Here in Washington. Bear with me a second, everybody. Sarah understands. Basically, I'm a person of nobody. Yeah, but you are a somebody. In the eyes of the soul, you are really, truly a somebody. It's you has to realise that you truly are that somebody. Okay, so let's have a look at where we're at here. I did see a question, Adam Cook. However, I feel in a perpetual dark night of the soul. Can you speak on this, please? Love to all hear from Lincoln. Okay. Now, Adam, I don't know how much of you know about me and how many YouTube videos I've done on truly understanding the dark night of the soul. And again, the dark night of the soul is very personal. But the dark night of the soul, which I spoke about, is simply this. It's the caterpillar, the cocoon, and the butterfly. And it's a dark night of the soul because you have deep-rooted questions that you've never found the answers to. The human side of you won't find that answer. So you have the human story. Now, a lot of people don't even know the answers to the human story. So we haven't got that bit right. So when people in the human story then all of a sudden fall into the cocoon of that darkness, we're not going to get this story right neither, because the reason I'm in the cocoon is because I didn't understand the story of the human. And so therefore, we are blindly walking through our journey as I was. I thought I knew where I was going. I thought I knew what I was doing. And then it all just went apeshit, disappeared. And I fell into that darkness. And now I've got a new set of questions, a new argument, saying to myself, well, why on earth am I in this bloody place? So what am I going to do? So you try to be, go back to be the caterpillar. And maybe some days you do go back to being the caterpillar. And you say to yourself, I feel all right now. But the caterpillar will still walk its way back into the cocoon of transformation. So you are in that transformation. Now, I could say the moral of the story is that in that transformation, I discovered I got stripped to the bare bones and came out the other side. But when you're in that cocoon, you're very scared to come out on the other side because you don't know how you're going to be. I didn't know. I didn't know any of this was coming. I had no idea that I could do healing. I had no idea I was going to be a psychic medium. I had no idea I was going to be on TV. I had no idea I would heal people. I had no idea I'd be doing these YouTubes. So it's a scary place, but it's about letting go of limiting beliefs that you have about yourself in that human way. And that's when everything has to be stripped. So the dark night of the soul literally is the last initiation of understanding the human story, understanding your emotions, understanding your mind, understanding your being, and understanding who or what is God. Because they're questions that you will be asking in the dark night of the soul. The questions are everywhere because it's about everything. But why did this happen? But why did that happen? And that's just a human story. Fall into that cocoon, you're saying the same questions, but now things have got a little bit darker and there's still no answers. So I looked at the caterpillar and the cocoon and said, okay, there's a transformation here that's going on that I have no idea about. I've got to ride this through, and I've got to try and keep myself alive in the best way that I possibly can. I did try to go back and be the caterpillar. It is never going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. Sometimes I wished it did, and I prayed that I would just go back and be the Trev that I used to be. But in actual fact, that would have still been the false Trev. And I would have done that because I was too scared to move forward to this new self that was going to be talking about different things in different ways. It can be a scary place. If you don't venture beyond that, you will keep yourself in that perpetual state of the dark night of the soul, because your soul or you would feel, I'm not ready to love. I don't think I've got anything to give. But you do, because what you've got is a body that is filled with experiences. And so therefore, some of them experiences are very dark. It happens. But then you're looking at it and sort of thinking, well, you could be saying the same question over and over and over again, like, why am I like this? Why am I putting myself through this? How did I go through this? And I needed to find them answers. And that's the best I can give it throughout all of my videos, that explains that difference, that switch of the soul wanting to evolve because it's technically had enough of the human being. It wants that out of the way. And then the soul evolves with you. You become in connection with that soul. And then I felt like me and my soul became a partnership, and we both walked out together out of that darkness. And of course, that's our beamism. So that became the butterfly. But healing the human, healing the mental aspects of being in the dark night of the soul is what we're here for. And when you sum it all up, it is definitely all about healing, because it's the very thing that's missing. So many people are ill, and I would like to think I would be more ill or more unwell than I am now if I carried on being a human being. So a dark night of the soul is a saviour. Even though it's in its darkness, you've got to get to understand that darkness and ask yourself important questions. And that's the why. What is it about me that is stopping me from being the light of who I am, or how I want to feel, or how I want to think, or what I want to be? So it's the last initiation into your transformation. And that's why I bring the Be Me Being, because it gives you an identity to be able to transform into that was something that I feel is needed, because if not, you're just going to be jumping from the human to the caterpillar, to the human to the caterpillar. But if you listen to the Be Me, there's another stepping stone, and that's the one that got created whilst I was in that darkness. I don't know many people that are doing that. Okay, right, we've done an hour, so we're going to start winding this up for the next 15 minutes. David Smith. Hi, David Smith. Yes, you did. You did call me 4 years ago. From USA. Love you. Thank you. How you doing? Obviously, you didn't need to speak to me, so you must be okay. So that is brilliant. Yes, I do remember you. Joan Armstrong. Trevor, I have a question. Do you not notice that the dark night of the soul happens in cycles like everything else in nature? Seasons, day, night, everything seems to be cycles. No, I don't. I can see depression in cycles. I can see having low energy in cycles. Oh, right, okay, listen. I just cottoned on. Bear with me a second, I'm having to go back in the journey. There was a part in the journey on the life cycles, these patterns just, oh my God, they was driving me mental. Because I could see this pattern was happening. And I was almost saying to myself, oh, here we go. I'm going to step right in to the same bloody pattern I've just left. Why? And I noticed it a hell of a lot. And I felt like it was Groundhog Day? And it is like that every day something's happening and you see these patterns, and that can be the dark night of the soul. But it wasn't like that for me with the dark night of the soul. But what I'd noticed as a healer, that was different. There was things that I needed to heal and understand about life, about being a human, about relationships, about people that I meet, about going through the similar things that I've already been through before, and thinking, well, how much time am I now going to waste on this? Because now I'm in it, and now I've got to get out of it. So yeah, there are cycles, but I think for my dark night of the soul, sorry about that, my dark night of the soul, which was the 10 years, I mean, that was pretty consistent. But that was only because I wasn't wanting to or couldn't get out of that until I'd completely resolved this, because I didn't want that cycle to happen, which meant I didn't want to make myself believe that I was out of the dark night of the soul if I wasn't out of the dark night of the soul. And I remember saying to myself, I feel like I'm out of the dark night of the soul, and I used to just let it sit and wait for something like my soul and my spirit to say, oh, you think you are? Oh no, we've still got a lot more work to do. And so therefore I used to find it a bit of a game, really, because I used to say, right, are we done now? Am I going to be doing this now? Is this the way I'm going to be teaching now? Are we leaving it there? Is there any more? And I used to almost like edge it on a little bit and sort of think, well, I won't waste my time writing the book because it's all going to change. I won't waste my time thinking this is what I'm going to do. Like, say, for instance, be a psychic. Let's say it was that, right? Oh, this must be, I used to say, this must be the ending of the story. It's about being a psychic. Great, I thought. But it wasn't. So there was still more. So it can seem like it puts you in the dark night of the soul. But the dark night of the soul is the greatest teacher. So if I go into that place where it's like, oh, I thought it was psychic. Oh, but no, it's not. Oh, but what is it then? Well, I've eliminated the word psychic, haven't I? So then it was a process of waiting to see what would come next. And that's when it became medium. Then it became healing. Then it became beamism. And then it talks about enlightenment. And then it talks about the gift of feeling, and so forth and so forth. So there are moments when you can slip in and out backwards and forwards, up the ladder, down the ladder, bipolar, human being in the dark night, human being in the dark night, in the dark night, beamy being in the dark night, beamy being. So I felt this, 1 foot in this world, human, 1 foot in this world, darkness. I haven't got 3 legs, but you just switch over. Then I had my left leg, let's say, in the darkness, and my right leg was in the higher self. See what I've just done there? So I've stepped in backwards like that, and I've sidestepped in to believe in that the beamy self, the healed self, the true self, the spirit self, the soulful self is real. My human self was just a play that everyone told me to play, so I played it, and then it didn't work. And that's the difference, see? Once you understand your patterns, then it goes off into the next one, and that's beautiful. If you recognize the patterns, then we can break the patterns. They can be patterns of your thoughts, patterns of your emotions, patterns in people you meet, patterns in your jobs, patterns in your behavior, patterns in your energy levels. So everything is a pattern. Yes, nature does have a pattern. Everything goes up, everything goes down. Everything is born and everything leaves the planet in one way or another. But energy can never die, and this is what we all speak about. It's about the energy of who we are. So when you're looking at energy in the dark night of the soul, the energy can be up, the energy can be down. But it's that middle pathway. That for me was the beamy. That's what Buddha spoke of. He found the middle pathway between being a human being and then transcending of what he would say was a connection or union to all that is. So he found the middle way to be able to understand that side of the story and to understand the pain and suffering of what it means to be a human being. And we've all got it. We can all find that way. I just simplify everything in being me, which means you've got a body, a mind, and energy. And all 3 things are going to get affected no matter what you're going through. But mastering is what we need to do to be able to keep hold of the power of who we are. That's Be Me Mastery. Okay, right. David Smith, still on the incredible Be Me journey. You're fantastic. Grateful to you. Well done, David. Thank you for saying that. Right, who have we got? Any more questions? We've got Joan Armstrong talking to High Ruth Jones. Experimental Elemental. Joan Joan, I keep nearly seeing Joan Armatrade in there. John Armstrong, sorry. And the cycles are also the layers of the onion being peeled. Yes, it does seem like that. And I couldn't believe it because you are peeling away layers of injuries. You're peeling away layers of that human programming. And healing for me was all about feeling the discomfort and this energy that was in the solar plexus that was could really just bang, 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 bang like this. And if people upset that button, and it used to do that, I used to think, God, I've not healed anything here because I'm still feeling stuck. So that became a repetitive onion, and it was like, you peel a layer and it's still the bloody onion. You peel the layer and it's still the bloody onion. But in the process of that, you've got to become very wise to that, because it does seem like that, but also represent yourself by how many layers you have taken off. I call them overcoats now. So each emotion that we've collected along our journey, look at it in the eyes of a child. When a child starts feeling the fear, an overcoat goes on. It's because they want to protect themselves, because that's what the body wants to do. It wants to protect itself from something that's fearful, that's having a go at it, shouting at it, showing an ugly face. And so therefore an overcoat goes on. And then many overcoats go on. And I believe that's why as we get older, we have no energy, and we're walking around like this as if saying, oh my God, I can't even stand up straight. I just feel like the world is on my shoulders. Look at his overcoats, and every time you've understood something, or found a wisdom in something, or feel very pleased about yourself for doing something, see it as an overcoat. Use different coloured overcoats if you like. But I used to see them overcoats as like layers of concrete. Because as we go through life, what these layers of coats are doing is it's hardened your heart. It's covered your heart. And so therefore, with all these many coats of concrete, it was very hard to love. That's what I felt like. So the more I was healing, taking off these experiences, taking off these pains, getting to the point of feeling clear, feeling clean, feeling pure. I didn't have no overcoats. It was just wonderful. So yes, it will seem like that. It does feel like that. I use the same analogy, but I saw it as overcoats of, again, initiations. I was here to heal myself, and I wasn't going to leave the planet until I felt that I'd healed myself and put new clothes on. New onion. Right, brilliant. Full self, to me that's human. It's all cycles, we are nature too. Yes, it's all cycles. The universal language. Connecting into universal language for me is when I feel an energy of something's affecting me. And as a human being, I used to go, oh, now what have I got the ump for? Now why am I down? Now why am I depressed? Now have I lost inspiration or whatever it is? And I used to feel these, but after a while, you get to the point where you don't blame yourself so much, because it's like you say, yeah, hold up here a minute. There is a greater energy I'm sensing and that I'm feeling. And of course, that's the universal language. That's the universal law. And everything on this planet, call it nature if you like, is working with that universal law, that universal language. It's the human being that isn't working with that universal language. So I started to feel the energy of the universe. I felt its highs and lows. Simply said, you can feel it within the weather patterns. High weather, low weather. It's the same thing. We're all being affected by the reoccurrence of nature. But I think for me, I got to the point where it was, what was I like in January? What am I like in February, March, April, May? And I used to start to understand how I was being in any given certain months. But if you asked a flower, it too would say, well, I feel like this in January because I don't exist. I feel like this in February because I feel a bit of a stirring. I feel like this in March because I'm starting to sense a little bit of spring in the air. And then come May, June, July, I flourish. So it's working with universal language. It's not coming out in January. But we can be sure it's going to blossom in the hotter months, June, July. I think we are all like that. But long as you know that you are like that, then you get in connection with that universal language. And as I always say, the soul for me is a symbol of universal language. And that soul is connected to the greater language, which a lot of people call divinity or divine language. That's the one level of consciousness that feeds all that's underneath it. So get into that one consciousness. Do we truly understand that? The best I can say is that it was the greater consciousness I've ever had compared to all the other levels of consciousness underneath that one level consciousness. I just call it Be Me now. So Be Me would be at the top of the pyramid, and throughout the pyramid would just be all these different layers of consciousness, labels and identities. So for me, be me come first. But of course, nobody told me that. But once I'd worked it all out, be me was my own repetitive process that I needed to understand. And if you can get onto a good repetitive pattern or a process that you're very happy with, then that's the one to stick with. So that, yes, it's all about patterns, it seems tonight. Right, it's all cycles, we are nature too. Yes, of course we're nature. Fall in love with nature. Lola, changed my life probably 5 years ago, and then I turned 30. And I've been alone my whole life, and I've had many visions. Okay. There's not so much of a question there, but you did change your life. Probably 5 years ago, you turned 30, and you've been alone all your life. So, do you like being alone? Do you not want to be alone? And how interesting are the visions? Because, again, I think when you're alone, there's no distraction. And I think more of the spiritualness happens more because there is no distractions from anywhere. Because that's what happened to me. I felt like I was pushed to be on my own so that I could concentrate about who I am, what I am, and what was about to emerge. So I think it's a very important thing to understand. A lot of people love being on their own. A lot of people don't like being on their own. What I found lonely for me was, one, nobody understanding why I was going through the dark night of the soul. That was a very lonely journey. But even when beamism came to the forefront, it was still a lonely journey because I'm the only one that's got it. So therefore, that became lonely. Being a creator can be very lonely in itself. So there is that sort of loneliness that we feel, that we want to express ourselves with. And so therefore, if you look at nature and you express yourself with that, I'd rather fall in love with that than anything that's going to distract me from being understanding within myself, to be healed within myself without the distractions. A lot of people will go through that. Okay, guys, I'm not sure what we got. What time was we on? 8:30. Okay, we can start to wind this up a little bit more. So helpful. Nice to see you, David Smith, there again. Lola, changed my life, hopefully. Joan Armstrong, David Smith, John Armstrong, Hypnicity. Okay, my last thing, talking about drugs there. Adam Cook, in the perceptual dark night of the soul. Adam, right, okay, I've had a 30-year hard drug addiction. I'm in the 12-step fellowship and I've learned a fair bit of psychology. I recognise the difference between coming from the head and the heart. Yes, that's the big one, isn't it? That's coming from that, for me, from the head and from the heart. The heart is the hardest, as you know. The mind, the head, will always tell you, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, why don't you? You know, so you can get addicted to many things. Life is addictive in lots of ways. Being angry can be addictive. Your personality of being miserable can be addictive. Chocolate, soda pops, food, sugar, the whole thing's addictive. Of course, you've gone on to that level of hard drug addiction, whatever that was for you. But the greatest thing about it is that you learned about the psychology behind it. And I've always said that if that's something that you've endured and something that you went through, it steers you off into a different place. So if you was really clever and you sort of thought, wow, okay, I'm going to learn all there is about this psychology stuff, and I'm going to learn how to understand where these addictions come from and how I've got involved with them. And then later on down the line, I'll use that information to maybe help somebody else. So I always find that in the problem, there's always a solution for somebody else. You could be that solution. But again, on a soul level, when you get addicted to things like that, you're destroying life. It's as simple as that. And I hate to say it as that, but you know that it is that. But it's so available out there. Listen, pharmaceuticals, it's still drug addictions. Many people are on drugs they can't even get hold of. And the doctors are subscribing them. So what is a drug? What's an addiction? People are addicted to painkillers. A lot of actors. Look at the way they seem to be disappearing. Michael Jackson, for one. Everyone's addicted to something. But if you can get through it, that's been your personal journey to life. Okay, I think we're going to start to wind this down. I think we've spoke to as many people as I possibly can. I'm looking at the video on there. I don't know if it's that great at all, to be honest with you. I think I must have had a problem with my internet. So, any more questions before we wind this up? Question from Liza. How can one tell one is healing a particular ancestral trauma? You can simply see it in your own ancestral lineage that's still alive, because they will also be carrying that trauma through that is carried on to you. When I looked at it in many, many different ways about what was I carrying, I mean, for me, what was a big trauma was the family coming from a lot of prophets, right? Preachers. But them preachers back in the day, I don't think they were what you call God-loving patriots, really, because they was talking about a control system that was killing people. So I believe in my ancestral lineage that you think a preacher is a good thing, like somebody that speaks about the Bible. You think they're really good, and you think that's the right way forward. But if you go back into the history of that, there's a lot of stuff surrounding that. And our families, all of our families would have gone through them certain belief systems. So, listen, it can be the fear of God. Everyone's carrying that within them somewhere, that there is a fear of God. But I noticed within my preacher family, I felt like, and I said it to myself today, I felt like my preacher ancestors believed in the book until they died. And when I saw my ancestral family in the spirit, in my dreams, in my nightmares, showing me these awful moments, they was giving me trauma. And so therefore I felt like I was here to understand their bloody trauma about something that they thought was right, but now telling me it's wrong. Don't forget, I've come from the lineage. You have come from your lineage. We already know the lineage. You have to decide which part of it is you or not. But a lot of your traumas, what's your father? What's your mother? What's your grandparents? When I did that with my lot, I could see why I was a tough cookie. Because all of my family were built like that. And so therefore, that was traumatizing me. So you can see it because they're still carrying it on. You can call it religion. You can call it 2,000 years of religion. They're still carrying it on. But no one's really truly being themselves. They're just carrying something on that was put into them from their ancestry. So therefore, they're all believing in the same thing. It's about breaking the chain now. Right, okay. Right, everyone. Let's get to the bottom of the chats. I think they're on the bottom, aren't they? Right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming in and having a little chat with me. Great with your questions, so that's fantastic. Just quickly going through this now. No, I think I'm going to throw a personal question. Right, I've done that. Came back from all trauma, 26 years. I have depression and very ugly corporal sensations, anxiety. Also, I don't really know how to relate to people. Some advice. Again, all of that's on the channel. Relating to people sometimes can be by the way that you're relating to yourself. That's a big one to try and understand. You might fear people. You might fear confrontation. There's a lot of things that we can fear about what you sense from people. But we're here to feel free. We're not here to have these human conditions. We're supposed to be free. We're supposed to be beautiful entities experiencing this beautiful realm of the 3D world called human being. But again, we've got so many labels that put us into a box. I say it's about releasing some of them labels as well. As I always say to people, explain depression without using the word depression. I had to do that. Right, okay, lovely, lovely people. Or lovely beamies. Shaman, mermaid, black dragon, hi. If you would like, alright, that's okay. Oh my God, love you. Sarah, thank you. Rachel Stats, thank you. Liza, thanks. And everyone else that's on here. I shall see you next time. But today, I wasn't really sure what I was going to speak about. I try not to put myself even in the box of that. And I was finding it hard even what to fill in when you put, what you're talking about. So I'd just like to put, Trev is going to have a chat. And you can have a chat with me. I try not to label it so that it stays with the confinements of that label. It's an open chat. And in that open chat, we can talk about many, many things. So I hope you've enjoyed my little ramble. I hope somewhere it's made a difference. And I hope somewhere it's shed some light on some of the things that you might be struggling with. Because when you're struggling on your own, it's very difficult. And again, I'm very concerned about humans now because I got a phone call yesterday, and again, from a friend's part of my families that we kind of grew up along with. I mean, one of their daughters has just committed suicide, and it's a real shame because, I remember when she was born, and she's the same age as my daughter. So it is sadness that somebody says to you, oh, do you remember so-and-so? And you go, oh yeah, how's she doing? And they say, committed suicide last night. And it's like, oh, okay, that's very sad. It will never be in the newspapers. It won't be on the news. It doesn't seem to be important enough. But I believe a lot of people are doing it, unbeknown to a lot of people. And it's amazing that we find ourselves in that trouble, in that dark night of that soul where they can't handle it anymore. And so therefore, the greatest challenge, it seemed, for the soul was to leave the planet because it couldn't endure any more pain. So it's really sad that these things happen. This is why I do what I do, because I knew what it felt like to be in that place. Nobody was going to jump in and save me, but I battled myself to save myself, to understand myself. And if I could do that, then it will never, ever happen again. And I do the best that I can through my experience to share that knowledge. So on that note, my lovely little beamy beings, I shall see you next time. And let your light shine. Hypnicity, thank you very much. Right, people, I bid you a great evening or a great day, whatever time zone you're in. So thank you very much for listening for my ramblings. My name is Trevor. I'm a beamy being, teaching the world that there is another